If you're drawn to stories where defiance meets destiny, where broken bonds ignite something fiercer than submission, you're exactly where you need to be. This is Kismet Romance Collection, where the pack protects its own. Hit subscribe if you recognize yourself in these shadows. Chapter 1. They say an Omega who refuses an Alpha King dies before dawn. I had 3 hours left. The throne room stank of old blood and wet stone. Moonlight sliced through the stained glass, painting crimson streaks across the marble where others had knelt, where others had broken. I wouldn't bow. His voice was gravel and smoke, scraping down my spine like claws on bone. Alpha King Kale Thorn, silver eyes, scarred jaw, a presence that made weaker wolves piss themselves. I met his gaze, held it. The room went silent. You could hear hearts hammering. Wolves don't challenge their king, especially not Omegas, especially not me, packless, mateless, nothing. But I'd been nothing my entire life. What was one more night? No. The word cracked like thunder. His council gasped. Someone whispered a prayer, the beta to his right. Damon, cold-eyed and vicious, smiled like he'd just been given permission to tear me apart. Kyle didn't move, didn't blink. Then he shifted. Not fully, just enough. His bones cracked, shoulders broadening, claws extending. The air thickened with dominance. Alpha command so brutal it drove every wolf in the room to their knees. Every wolf but me. I don't know why. I should have collapsed, should have submitted. My wolf should have been whimpering, exposing her throat. Instead, she snarled. Kyle froze. For one impossible second. The Alpha King of the Northern Territories looked uncertain. Then his hand shot out, iron fingers locking around my throat. He yanked me forward so close I could see the gold flecks in his silver eyes, could smell cedar and night and something darker. You should be on your knees, he whispered. Breath hot against my ear, trembling, begging. I gasped for air, clawed at his wrist, my vision spotted. And yet, he continued, voice dropping to something deadly soft, your wolf stands tall. Why? I couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. His grip loosened, barely, just enough for me to choke out 2 words. Try harder. Mistake, huge mistake. His eyes flashed pure alpha gold. Then he moved. 1 second I was standing. The next I was on the ground, marble cold against my cheek, his knee pressed between my shoulder blades, forced down. The position every Omega fears, submission through dominance, the ultimate humiliation. There, Kale murmured, his weight crushing, inescapable. Now you're where you belong. I should have been terrified, should have been broken. But something was wrong. The place where his hand gripped my neck, where skin touched skin, it burned. Not pain, something else. Something that made my wolf go absolutely still, then surge forward with a hunger I'd never felt. Mate. No, 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 no. Not him. Not the king who destroyed my birth pack. Not the alpha who'd left us for dead when rogues attacked, who'd ignored our pleas for help because we were too weak to deserve his protection. Not the male who'd killed my sister. But the bond snapped into place anyway, cruel and absolute. A golden chain I could feel wrapping around my ribs, my heart, my soul. Kale went rigid. His hand spasmed against my neck. Then he ripped away like I'd burned him, stumbling back, eyes wide. Impossible, he breathed. Around us, the council stirred. Damon stepped forward, predatory. My king, what? Get out! Kale's voice was raw, shaking. All of you, now! They fled, even Damon, even the guards who'd stood witness to 1,000 executions. We were alone. I pushed myself up slowly, every muscle screaming. Met his eyes, saw my own horror reflected there. You feel it, I said. Not a question. His jaw clenched. I reject. I reject you first, I snarled. I, Sarah Ashwood, reject you, Cale Thorne, as my mate. I want nothing from you, not your bond, not your... The pain hit like a blade to the chest. I collapsed, gasping. Rejection doesn't just hurt, it destroys. Tears through your wolf, through your humanity. Leaves you bleeding from the inside out. But I'd rather bleed than be bound to him. Kyle was on his knees too, face gray, one hand pressed to his ribs like he could hold the bond together by force. You don't. He swallowed hard. You don't know what you've done. I know exactly. The prophecy. His voice cracked. There was a prophecy, an omega, packless, marked by the moon, the only one who could. He looked up at me, and for the first time I saw fear in those silver eyes, real, bone-deep terror. You were supposed to save us. Save you? I laughed, bitter and broken. Your kind let mine die. I know. 2 words. Quiet, devastating. I know. The bond twisted between us, bleeding out, dying. My wolf howled, his alpha presence flickered. But if you reject me fully, Cale continued, forcing himself to stand, the curse awakens. And everyone, every pack, every territory will burn. I stared at him. What curse? He smiled. It was the saddest thing I'd ever seen. The one my family has carried for 300 years. The one that requires a true mate bond to contain. He tilted his head. The one that's already starting to break free. Behind him, the stained glass cracked. Not from force, from something else. Something that made the temperature drop, made frost crawl across the marble, made my wolf flatten her ears and whimper. So here's your choice, little Omega. Cale's eyes bled black, not alpha gold, something worse. Finish the rejection and let the darkness loose. Or... He stepped closer. Close enough to touch. Close enough that I could feel the bond straining, screaming, trying to rebuild. Stay. Become my Luna, my queen. And help me cage the monster I was born to be. The frost reached my feet, climbed my legs. The temperature plummeted. In the distance, wolves began to howl, not in greeting, in terror. Decide quickly, Cale whispered, before the choice is taken from us both. The darkness inside him pulsed, hungry, and I realized with dawning horror that the Alpha King wasn't just cruel. He was cursed, and I'd just broken the only thing keeping it contained. Chapter 2. The frost stopped an inch from my throat. Cale's hand shot out, not to hurt me, but to stop it. His fingers trembled as black veins crawled up his forearm, pulsing with something that made my wolf recoil. Don't! His voice fractured. Don't come closer. I should have run. Every instinct screamed at me to flee while he was fighting whatever hell lived inside him. Instead, I stepped forward. What is it? My voice steadier than I felt. What are you holding back? His laugh was broken glass. You really want to know? You whose pack I abandoned? Whose sister died because I was too proud to answer a plea for help? The words hit like a gut punch. He remembered. He knew exactly what he'd done. Then tell me. I forced the words past the grief. Tell me why I should stay bonded to a monster. Because I'm not a monster. Cale's eyes met mine. One silver, one drowning in black. I'm the monster, the thing that ended the great pack war, the weapon my father created and couldn't control. The shadows in the throne room deepened, moved, breathed. 300 years ago, the Thorne bloodline made a deal. Power in exchange for containment. Every generation, one alpha carries it. The void. A living darkness that devours everything. Wolves, humans, magic itself. His jaw clenched. It's kept chained by 3 things. The crown, the territory, wards, and a mate bond, I finished, understanding crashing through me like ice water. A true mate bond. He nodded. Not chosen, not forced, fate given. The prophecy said she'd be packless. powerful, unbreakable. His gaze raked over me, bitter. I've searched for 20 years, and the moon goddess gives me you, the one wolf who has every reason to hate me. The bond pulsed between us, weakening with every second the rejection held. Behind Coil, the shadows grew, formed shapes, twisted, hungry things with too many teeth. How long? I asked quietly. Until it breaks free? He glanced at the darkness, expression hollow. Hours, maybe less. You damaged the bond, destabilized it. The void is waking up. And if we complete the bond? Something flickered in his eyes. Hope. Dangerous, desperate hope. Then it goes back to sleep, locked away, contained. He took a step toward me, slow, like approaching a frightened animal. I know what I'm asking. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, your mercy, anything from you. His hand extended, palm up, offering. But I'm begging anyway. The Alpha King, on the edge of breaking, begging. My wolf stirred, not in submission, in something worse, recognition. She didn't just feel the mate bond, she felt his wolf, felt the way it was being consumed, piece by the darkness, felt how much pain he was in, had been in, for years. You let my pack die, I said, voice cracking. You let my sister. I know. His hand didn't lower. I was young, arrogant. Thought if I showed weakness, showed mercy, the other alphas would sense the void inside me and attack. He swallowed hard. I was wrong, and she paid the price. They all did. Her name was Lila. Tears burned my eyes. She was 12. Lila, he repeated, like a prayer, like a confession. I'm sorry doesn't cover it. Nothing covers it. But I'm asking you to let me try. The shadows crept closer. One of them reached for me, a hand made of smoke and screaming. Kale snarled. Alpha command so powerful the shadow disintegrated, but the effort cost him. He staggered, more black veins spreading across his skin. Sarah! My name on his lips, rough and raw. Please. I looked at his hand, at the male who'd destroyed my world, at the bond trying to rebuild itself, golden threads reaching across the space between us. At the monster he was fighting to contain. If I do this, I said slowly, I'm not doing it for you. His expression didn't change. I know. I'm doing it because I won't let innocent wolves die because of our bond, because of him. I gestured to the darkness. But you owe me a debt, one you'll spend the rest of your life repaying. Yes, no hesitation. And I want answers about my pack, about why you really abandoned us, about everything. You'll have them. And I stepped closer, close enough to feel his heat, his desperation. If you ever try to control me, dominate me, force me into submission because I'm your mate, I won't. His free hand came up, hovering near my face but not touching. I don't want a broken Luna, I want... He trailed off. What? His smile was sad, broken. Someone strong enough to tell me no. Even when it costs you. Especially then, his eyes said. The shadows were circling now, dozens of them pressing against the walls. The temperature had dropped so low I could see my breath. Outside, wolves were howling in panic. The wards were failing. Decision time. I took his hand. The bond exploded back to life. Not gently, not soft. It hit like a tidal wave, like lightning, like every emotion I'd buried for 5 years slamming into me at once. Pain, rage, grief, and underneath it all, his emotions, his pain, his guilt, his desperate, aching loneliness. Kale gasped, eyes going wide. Then he yanked me forward, one arm banding around my waist, and bit down, right where my neck met my shoulder, the mating mark. I screamed, not in pain, in power. My wolf surged forward, returning the bite, marking him as thoroughly as he marked me, claiming, binding, completing. The bond snapped into place like a lock, golden chains wrapping around us both, unbreakable, eternal, and the void shrieked. The shadows exploded backward, repelled by the force of the completed bond. They crashed into the walls, dissipating into smoke. The frost retreated. The temperature rose. Cale's eyes cleared, both silver again, the black receding. He pulled back slowly, breathing hard, forehead pressed to mine. "You're insane," he whispered. "Absolutely insane. Says the cursed Alpha King who just bit me without asking. You gave me your hand. I didn't give you my throat." His laugh was startled, real. "No, you definitely didn't." He pulled back enough to meet my eyes. "You'll never let me forget this, will you?" "Not for a single second." "Good." His thumb brushed my jaw, gentle, reverent. "I don't want you to." The bond hummed between us, strong now, stable. I could feel everything. His relief, his wonder, his bone-deep exhaustion from fighting the void for so long. And underneath it all, the darkness, still there, still hungry, but sleeping, for now. The doors burst open. Damon stalked in, followed by the council, weapons drawn. They froze when they saw us, saw the mating marks, saw the way Cale's arm was still around me, protective. "My king," Damon started. "She's your queen now," Cale interrupted, voice cold, commanding. "Address her accordingly, or don't address her at all." Damon's eyes narrowed on me. "The Packless Omega. You can't be serious." "Deadly serious." Cale's grip on me tightened. "Challenge her, and you challenge me. Disrespect her, and you disrespect the crown." His alpha presence flooded the room. "Is that clear?" Silence. Then reluctantly, Damon dropped to one knee. The others followed. "My queen," he said, each word dripping poison. I looked down at them, at the wolves who'd stood by while packs like mine burned, who'd served the king who'd let children die. "Get up," I said quietly. "I don't need your knees. I need your service." Damon's head snapped up, surprised. There are packs out there suffering like mine did, ignored, forgotten, considered too weak to matter. I stepped out of Cale's arms, standing on my own. That ends now. We protect all wolves, or we protect none. The council exchanged glances, uncertain, wary. Cale moved to stand beside me, not in front, beside. "You heard your queen. Make it happen." "But my king," one of the counselors protested. "The smaller packs don't have the resources to—" "Then we give them resources," I interrupted. "We train them, defend them. Or did you forget that I was once one of those weak wolves you dismissed?" I let my alpha aura rise, not as strong as Cale's, but there, present, undeniable. The room went silent, because Packless Omegas don't have alpha auras, unless— "Impossible," someone whispered. Cale was staring at me, eyes wide. "Sarah, your wolf. She's changing," I finished, feeling it too. The power flooding through me, not borrowed from the bond, but mine, growing, awakening. "What's happening?" "The prophecy," Cale breathed. "You're not just my mate. You're—" The windows shattered. A massive wolf crashed through, black as midnight, eyes burning red. Rogue, but not alone. Behind it, dozens more poured through. An organized attack. "To the king!" Damon roared, shifting mid-leap. Chaos exploded. Guards shifted, met the rogues head-on. Blood sprayed across marble. Growls and screams filled the throne room. Cale moved to shift, but I grabbed his arm. "The void, if you lose control—" "I won't." But I felt his fear through the bond, felt how close the darkness was to the surface. The lead rogue lunged for me. Coil roared, throwing himself between us. They collided in a blur of fur and fangs. The rogue was massive, nearly Cale's size, which shouldn't be possible. Then I saw the mark on its shoulder, a brand, dark magic. Someone had enhanced these rogues, made them stronger, sent them here specifically to make Cale lose control. "It's a trap," I screamed. They're trying to trigger the void. Too late. Kale tore the rogue's throat out, blood spraying. But his eyes were bleeding black again. The shadows were rising, and this time, with his bloodlust triggered, he might not be able to stop them. The void was waking, and we were all about to die. Chapter 3. The shadows exploded from Kyle like a shockwave. They didn't just spread, they devoured. The nearest rogue disintegrated, reduced to ash before it could even scream. Then the next, and the next. The void wasn't distinguishing between enemy and ally. "Everyone out!" Damon roared, dragging a wounded guard toward the doors. "Now!" The council fled. The remaining guards scrambled after them. Even the rogues that were still alive turned and ran, survival instinct overriding whatever orders they'd been given. But I couldn't leave. The bond wouldn't let me. It pulled me toward Kyle like a chain, screaming that my mate was in danger, even if the danger was him. He was on his knees in the center of the carnage, hands clawed into the marble, body convulsing. The shadows poured from him in waves, spreading across the floor, up the walls, consuming everything they touched. "Kale!" I ran toward him. "Stay back!" His voice was layered, his own and something else, something ancient and hungry. I can't control it." A shadow lashed out at me like a whip. I threw up my hands instinctively, and light erupted from my palms. Pure golden light, moon-blessed. It hit the shadow, and the shadow screamed, recoiling. We both froze. "How?" Kale's eyes, still bleeding black, locked onto me. "You're not... Omegas can't... I know what I'm supposed to be," I snapped, staring at my glowing hands. The power thrumming through me felt ancient. Familiar, like it had always been there, just sleeping. But apparently, the moon goddess had other plans. Another shadow struck. I caught it with the light, watched it dissolve. The power flowing through me wasn't just mine. It was coming through the bond, channeling something from Kale, transforming it, purifying it. Understanding hit like lightning. "That's why the mate bond contains it," I breathed. "Not by suppressing the darkness, but by balancing it. Light and shadow, two halves of one whole," Kale finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Sarah, if you can channel it, if you can transform it instead of just containing it, then we don't just cage the monster." I stepped closer, light blazing brighter. "We tame it." The void surged toward me, a tsunami of shadow and hunger. Every instinct screamed to run. I walked into it instead. The darkness hit me like ice water, cold, ancient, starving. It wanted to consume me, wanted to tear me apart and feast on what remained. But I had something it didn't expect. I had the bond. I had Kyle on the other end of it, fighting with everything he had to protect me even from himself. And I had light. I reached through the shadows, found Kale's hand and pulled. The bond flared between us like a star going nova. Golden light met endless darkness, and instead of destroying each other, they merged, twisted together, became something new. The shadows didn't disappear. They changed, from chaotic, consuming void to something controlled, purposeful. They flowed back into Kale like smoke, but this time they didn't fight him. They obeyed. Kale gasped, eyes clearing completely. He stared at his hands, at the shadows dancing between his fingers, responsive, tamed. "This is impossible. Seems to be our specialty." I swayed, suddenly exhausted. The power drain hit me all at once. Kyle caught me before I fell, pulling me against his chest. "Easy. You just did something that should have killed you." "Well, I'm full of terrible decisions today." I leaned into him, feeling his heart hammering against my cheek. "Adding this to the list." His laugh was shaky, relieved. "Thank you. I can't." He pulled back enough to look at me, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole my breath. "You saved me. After everything I've done, you saved me." "Don't thank me yet." I straightened, forcing strength into my legs. Someone sent those rogues, enhanced them with dark magic specifically to trigger the void. This was an assassination attempt. His expression hardened. Damon, you think your own beta. I don't think. I know. Kale's jaw clenched. He's been pushing for war with the Eastern Territories for months. Said we needed to expand, to conquer while we're strong. I refused. A war would destabilize the void, risk everything. His eyes met mine. But with me dead and the kingdom in chaos, he could seize control. Start the war he wants. Then we need proof. We need... The doors burst open again, but this time it wasn't an attack. It was a girl. Couldn't be more than 16, dressed in servant's clothes, eyes wide with terror. She collapsed at the threshold, bleeding from a dozen claw marks. "My queen!" she gasped. "Please, they said you'd help, that you protect the weak." I was at her side in an instant. "Who did this?" "The beta." Blood bubbled at her lips. "He's been taking wolves, low-ranking ones, using them for experiments, dark magic. He branded them, sent them to..." She coughed, more blood. Kale knelt beside me, pressing his hand to the worst wound, trying to stem the bleeding. "To kill the king," she finished. "Tonight. The rogues were us. We're wolves from our own pack. He mutated us, changed us. I only escaped because..." Her eyes rolled back. "No, no, no." I pressed my glowing hands to her wounds, channeling whatever power I had left. "Stay with me, stay..." Light poured into her. The wounds began to close, slowly, too slowly, but closing. Her eyes fluttered open. You really are..." "Shh, save your strength." "The others," she whispered, "in the dungeons, below the West Tower. He has more. Dozens. He's building an army." Kale's expression went deadly cold. "How long?" "Months. Since before you found your mate. He said once you were bonded, you'd be too distracted to notice. Too weak." I looked at Kyle. Found him already looking at me. "He used your grief against you," I said quietly. "Your isolation. While you were fighting the void alone, he was building his coup right under your nose. And he knew the bond would stabilize me." Kale stood, shadows already gathering at his fingertips. Controlled now, purposeful. Knew that I'd finally be strong enough to stop him, so he attacked tonight, before we could solidify our power. "He underestimated one thing," I said, rising beside him. "What's that?" I let my own power rise, the golden light that shouldn't exist, the alpha aura that omegas aren't supposed to have. "That I'm not just your mate, I'm your equal." The bond flared between us, light and shadow in perfect balance. Kale's smile was sharp, dangerous. "Then let's show my beta what happens when he threatens what's mine." We moved as one toward the West Tower. The girls' directions were perfect. Down 3 levels through the old dungeons that hadn't been used in decades. The smell hit us first. Blood. Fear. Dark magic so thick it coated the back of my throat. Then we heard the screams. Kale kicked the door off its hinges. The sight inside made my stomach turn. Cells. Dozens of them, each holding a wolf in various stages of transformation. Bones twisted, eyes burning red, brands smoking on their skin. And in the center, overseeing it all, was Damon. He looked up at our entrance. Didn't look surprised, didn't look afraid. He smiled. "My king. My queen." He sketched a mocking bow. "You're early. I didn't expect you until the void had consumed you both." "You tortured our own wolves," Coyle growled, shadows spreading. "Turned them into weapons. Used them to try to kill me." "Kill you? No, no." Damon laughed. "I was trying to free you. The void is power, Kale. Unlimited, unstoppable power. But you're too weak to use it. Too afraid. So I thought, why not trigger it? Let it consume you, and then step in to contain it myself." He held up his hand. showing an identical brand to the ones on the mutated wolves. I made a deal with the same entity your ancestors did, except I'm not afraid of it. I can control it. You're insane, I said. I'm ambitious. His eyes locked onto me. And you're the proof, an Omega with alpha power. You don't suppress his darkness. You amplify his potential. Imagine what I could do with that kind of mate bond. Kale moved in front of me, protective. You'll never touch her. Won't I? Damon raised his hand. Every mutated wolf in every cell began to scream. Their brands flared, their bodies convulsed. And then, as one, they shifted. Not into their wolf forms, into something worse. Something that was all teeth and shadow and burning red eyes, void-touched, like Kale used to be, but with no humanity left to fight back. Kill them, Damon ordered. The creatures exploded from their cells, and we were surrounded. Kale's shadows rose to meet them, but I felt his hesitation through the bond. These were his wolves, his people, innocent victims of Damon's ambition. He didn't want to kill them, but they were going to kill us. Unless... Coil, I grabbed his arm. The bond. If light and shadow can balance in you, maybe we can purify them too, he finished. It was insane. It would probably kill us both. We'd barely managed to tame the void in Kyle, and that was one source. This was dozens. The creatures lunged. I took Kale's hand, felt the bond flare to life between us, and we let our power explode. Light and shadow, perfectly balanced, rushed out in a shockwave. It hit the first creature, and it changed. The void corruption burned away. The twisted body reformed. A wolf collapsed to the ground, gasping himself again. Then the next, and the next. Our power spread through the dungeon like wildfire, purifying everything it touched. The creatures dissolved back into wolves, wounded, traumatized, but alive. Damon's smile vanished. No, this isn't... You can't... We just did, I said. Kale stepped forward, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked every inch the Alpha King. Powerful, controlled, deadly. Damon, former Beta of the Northern Territories. You're under arrest for treason, torture, and attempted assassination of your king. You can't prove... We have a witness. We have your victims. We have this. I gestured to the dungeon. That's all the proof we need. The freed wolves were rising now, surrounding Damon, looking at him with hatred, with betrayal. He'd tortured them, used them, thrown away their lives for his ambition. They wanted blood. Wait, Kale said quietly. He doesn't deserve a quick death. Damon's eyes widened. You're going to use the void on me. You're going to... No. Kale's smile was ice. I'm going to give you to them. He gestured to the wolves. To the people Damon had broken. Do with him what you will. He's yours. Justice. Raw and absolute. Damon screamed as they closed in. We didn't stay to watch. There are some things even a queen doesn't need to witness. Chapter 4. 3 days after Damon's execution, the kingdom still hadn't stopped whispering about the new queen who glowed with moonlight, about the Alpha King who'd tamed his curse, about the mate bond that had saved them all. I stood on the balcony of our chambers, watching the sun set over the Northern Territories. Our territories now, mine as much as Kale's. The thought still felt impossible. You're thinking too loud. Kale's arms wrapped around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. I can feel it through the bond. Can you blame me? I leaned back into him. A week ago, I was packless, alone. Now I'm queen of the largest territory in the realm, mate to a cursed king, wielder of moon-blessed power that shouldn't exist. His lips brushed my ear, bearer of entirely too much responsibility for one wolf. I laughed despite myself. When you put it that way, it's terrifying, he finished. I know. Trust me, I know. He turned me to face him, hands gentle on my waist. But you're not alone anymore. Neither of us are. The bond hummed between us, warm and steady. I could feel his certainty, his wonder that I was real, that I'd stayed, that I chose him every day. "The council wants to schedule the coronation ceremony," I said. "Official Luna Queen induction. They're pushing for next week." "And you don't want to do it." "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." His thumb traced circles on my hip. "Talk to me, Sarah." "What's wrong?" I pulled away, moving to the balcony's edge. Below, wolves moved through the courtyard, training, laughing, living, so different from the fear that had permeated this place just days ago. "I keep thinking about my pack," I admitted quietly. "About Lila, about all the wolves who died because help never came." I turned to face him. "You gave me justice against Damon, but what about justice for them?" Pain flickered across his face. "What do you want me to do? I can't bring them back." "No, but you can make sure it never happens again." I straightened, letting my alpha aura rise. "I want to restructure how we handle distress calls. I want patrols extended to the border territories. I want every small pack to have direct access to the throne, not filtered through betas who might ignore them. That would require massive resource reallocation. The council will fight you. Let them." My eyes met his, unflinching. "I'm not asking permission, Kyle. I'm telling you what needs to happen. You made me your queen, your equal, so treat me like one." For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then that slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. "There she is," he murmured. "The wolf who told an alpha king no. You said you wanted someone strong enough to challenge you." "I did. I do." He crossed to me in 3 strides, crowding me against the balcony railing. "You have no idea how much it costs me not to just give you everything you ask for." "Then don't." I tilted my chin up. "Make me earn it. Fight me. Debate me. Be my partner, not my servant." His eyes darkened. "Careful, little queen. You're playing a dangerous game." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." He leaned in, lips brushing mine. "You want to be treated as an equal? Fine. But that means no holding back, in counsel, in strategy, in everything." Heat flooded through the bond. Not just desire, challenge. The promise of a partnership that would never be easy, never be simple, but would always be real. "I can handle you," I whispered against his mouth. "Prove it." The kiss was fire and fury, light and shadow colliding. His hands fisted in my hair, my claws scraped down his back, and the bond sang between us. A knock shattered the moment. Kale pulled back with a growl. "This better be apocalyptic." "My king," a guard's voice urgent. "The Eastern Alpha is here. He demands an audience, immediately." Kale and I exchanged glances. The Eastern Territories had been silent since news of Damon's betrayal spread. No congratulations, no acknowledgement of the new Luna Queen, just silence. "Send him to the throne room," Kale ordered. "We'll be there shortly." The guard's footsteps retreated. "The Eastern Alpha doesn't just show up unannounced," I said, already moving toward the door. "Something's wrong. Everything with him is wrong." Kale followed, shadows already gathering at his fingertips, a reflex now when he sensed danger. Alpha Theron is old school, ruthless. He would have supported Damon's coup if he thought it would succeed. And now that it failed? Now he's here to assess the new power dynamic, to see if we're strong enough to hold the throne. He caught my hand. "Stay close. He'll try to undermine you, test you, maybe even challenge your right to rule. Let him try." But when we entered the throne room, it wasn't Alpha Theron waiting for us. It was a girl. She couldn't have been more than 20, dressed in Eastern pack colors, with silver hair and eyes that glowed an eerie violet. She stood in the center of the room, surrounded by our guards, but utterly calm, unafraid. "Where's Alpha Theron?" Kale demanded. "Dead." The girl's voice was soft, musical. "Wrong. Killed 3 nights ago by rogues. Very tragic." The temperature in the room dropped. I felt Coyle's shock through the bond, quickly masked by suspicion. "And you are?" "Lyra Theron, his daughter, the new Eastern Alpha." She smiled, and every instinct I had screamed danger. "I've come to discuss terms." "Terms of what?" I asked, moving to stand beside Kale's throne rather than behind it. "Equal." Lyra's violet eyes fixed on me. Oh, the little Omega who became queen. How inspiring. The words dripped venom. "Tell me, did you spread your legs before or after he killed your pack?" The room went silent. Kale's shadows exploded outward. "Watch your tongue." "Or what?" Lyra laughed. "You'll set your monster loose? We both know you can't. Not with witnesses. Not without risking the void consuming you again." She took a step forward. "My father might have been weak, but I'm not. I know what you are, Kale Thorne, what you've always been, a weapon held together by desperation and hope." "State your business or leave," I said coldly, power rising in my palms. "My business?" Lyra's smile widened. "I'm here to offer you a choice. Dissolve this farce of a mate bond. Reject the packless Omega playing dress-up. And bond with me instead." The audacity stole my breath. "I'm already bonded," Kale growled. "Bonds can be broken, you know that." Lyra moved closer, hips swaying. "And I can offer you something she never could. True power, true partnership, the Eastern and Northern Territories united under one rule, one king." "I'm not interested." "Not even when I tell you that I carry the same gift your mate does?" She held up her hand, and violet light blazed from her palm. Moon-blessed power. Except unlike little Sarah, I was born with it, trained in it. I don't just balance your darkness, Kyle. I could amplify it, make you unstoppable. My stomach dropped. She wasn't lying. I could feel the power radiating from her, ancient, vast, terrifying. "There are only 3 moon-blessed wolves alive in the world," Lyra continued. "Me, your precious mate, and one other. The prophecy never specified which one would be yours. Your kingdom just assumed." Her eyes locked onto mine. "What if they chose wrong?" "They didn't." Kale's voice was absolute, final. "Are you sure? Because I could give you everything, an alliance with the East, armies, resources." She turned to face me directly. "What can she offer? A dead pack? A sister's ghost? Weakness?" The words hit like physical blows. Every insecurity I'd buried came roaring back. "She offers loyalty," Kale said, moving to stand beside me. "Not in front, beside. Strength, honor, everything you lack." How touching. Lyra's expression hardened. "Then let me make my terms clear. Bond with me and the Eastern Territories remain neutral, perhaps even allied." "And if we refuse," I asked, "then I go to war, tomorrow. And unlike my weak father, I don't lose." She smiled. "Oh, and one more thing. Those rogues that killed him, I sent them, just like I sent the ones that attacked you 3 nights ago." Ice flooded my veins. "You worked with Damon." "Worked with him? Please, I used him. Let him think he was building a coup while I built an army." She laughed. "He was supposed to trigger the void and die. You were supposed to be too weak to stop it. And I was supposed to sweep in, save the kingdom, and claim the throne." "But we survived," Kale said. "You did, which makes this more interesting." Lyra's power flared. "So here's your choice, Alpha King. Reject your weakness, bond with strength, or watch your kingdom burn. And if we fight you, then you'll lose. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually." She turned toward the door. "I'll give you 1 week to decide. After that, I march on the Northern Territories with everything I have." She paused at the threshold, looking back. "Oh, and Sarah, when this is over and you're alone again, remember, you were never meant to be queen. You were just convenient." Then she was gone. The room erupted. Guards shouting, counselors arguing, panic spreading like wildfire. But I couldn't hear any of it. All I heard was her words echoing in my head. What can she offer? Weakness? Sarah. Cale's hands on my shoulders, turning me to face him. Don't listen to her. She's trying to get in your head. She's right, though, isn't she? The words tasted like ash. You could have someone stronger, someone trained, someone who isn't you. He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. I don't want stronger, Sarah. I don't want trained. I want the wolf who walked into darkness to save me, who challenged me when everyone else bowed, who looked at a monster and chose to love him anyway. I never said I loved you. You didn't have to. His forehead pressed to mine. The bond doesn't lie, and neither do I. Through the connection, I felt it. The truth he'd been holding back, the emotion he'd been too afraid to name. He loved me, completely, irrevocably. We have 1 week, I said quietly, then we use it. He pulled back and the Alpha King was back, sharp, focused, deadly. We prepare for war, we fortify the borders, we find the third moon-blessed wolf, I interrupted. Everyone froze. Lyra said there were 3. If we find the third one before she does, we might stand a chance, Cale finished, understanding dawning. Or we might all die, one of the counselors said. The third moon-blessed is a myth, a legend. No one even knows if she exists. She exists, a new voice said from the doorway. We all turned. The servant girl, the one I'd healed 3 days ago, stood there, violet light blazing in her palms. And she's been hiding in your castle the whole time. Chapter 5. The throne room exploded into chaos. Guards rushed forward. Counselors shouted. Kyle's shadows rose defensively, wrapping around me like armor. But the girl, the servant I'd saved, just stood there, calm, glowing with violet moon-blessed light that matched Lyra's perfectly. "Stay back!" one of the guards yelled. "Wait!" I stepped forward, hand raised. Something about her felt familiar, not threatening. "Let her speak." "Sarah," Kyle warned, "trust me." I looked back at him. "Please." Through the bond, I felt his reluctance, his fear for my safety, but also his trust, his certainty that I could handle this. He nodded. The shadows retreated slightly. I turned back to the girl. "What's your name? Your real name?" "Mira." She lowered her hands, the light fading but not disappearing. "Mira Ashwood." The world tilted. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Ashwood was my pack. I knew everyone. I would have known if there was another moon-blessed wolf." Mira's smile was sad. "My mother hid me, said the power was too dangerous, that if anyone knew, they'd either kill me or use me." Her eyes met mine. "She was your father's sister, my aunt. You're my cousin. I'm your family." She took a step closer. "The only family you have left." Tears burned my eyes. I'd thought I was alone, that everyone I loved was gone. "Why didn't you tell me before?" I demanded. "When I healed you, when you came to warn us about Damon." "Because I was afraid," Mira's voice cracked. "Afraid you'd reject me. Afraid I'd be too late. Afraid I'd fail you like I failed the rest of our pack. You were just a child when the rogues attacked. I was 15, old enough to fight, old enough to save them." Her hands clenched into fists. "But I hid, like my mother taught me, hid my power, hid myself, and listened to them die." The violet light flared brighter. "I've been hiding ever since, working as a servant, watching, waiting for a chance to make it right." Cale moved to stand beside me. "Why reveal yourself now?" "Because Lyra knows about me." Mira's expression hardened. "She's known for months. She's the one who killed my mother 2 years ago, tortured the truth out of her before she died. Lyra's been hunting me ever since, and now she's using you as bait," I finished. The war threat isn't just about forcing Kale to reject me. It's about drawing you out. If we bond our power together, Mira said, looking between us, the 3 moon-blessed wolves united with the Void King, we'd be unstoppable, strong enough to end her. Or strong enough to destroy everything, one of the counselors interjected. That much power combined could save us, I interrupted, or condemn us, but doing nothing definitely condemns us. I looked at Kale. What do you think? He was quiet for a long moment, shadows swirling thoughtfully around his fingers. The prophecy mentioned 3 lights to balance 1 darkness, 3 bonds to forge 1 unbreakable chain. I always thought it was metaphorical. What if it wasn't? Mira stepped forward. What if the prophecy required all 3 of us? Not just 1 mate bond, but 3 moon-blessed wolves working together to fully contain and control the void. That would mean, Kale's eyes widened, the mate bond between Sarah and me was just the beginning. We need to create a trinity bond, all 4 of us connected. Not a mate bond, Mira clarified quickly. A pack bond, family bond, stronger than blood, sealed by power and purpose. Through our connection, I felt Kyle's uncertainty, his fear that this was too much, too dangerous, but underneath it, hope. Desperate, fragile hope that maybe, finally, there was a way to be free. How do we do it? I asked. Blood magic, Mira said. Willingly given, freely bound. But it has to be all of us. If even 1 refuses, I'm in, I said immediately. Kale nodded. As am I. Then we need the 4th, Mira said. We need... The windows shattered. Lyra stood on the balcony, violet power blazing around her like a storm. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, dozens of wolves, enhanced, mutated, their eyes burning with void corruption just like Damon's creatures. How touching, she purred. A family reunion, and you even figured out the prophecy. Clever. She stepped into the room, power radiating. But you're missing 1 critical detail. What's that? Kale growled, shadows rising to meet her power. The Trinity bond doesn't just require 3 moon-blessed wolves. It requires 3 willing moon-blessed wolves. Her smile was venomous. And I'm never willing to be second to anyone. You were supposed to be the 3rd, Mira breathed. That's why you killed my mother. You wanted to know if there were others who could replace you. Got it in 1. Lyra's power flared brighter. The moon goddess marked 3 of us for this purpose, to balance the Void King, to save the world. She laughed bitterly. But why should I share power? Why should I bow to a king when I could be the queen? So you chose war instead, I said. I chose freedom, and now I'm here to offer you 1 final chance. She looked at Mira. Join me. Together we can take the void for ourselves, use it, control it, rule everything. I'd rather die, Mira said. That can be arranged. Lyra raised her hand. The mutated wolves lunged. Protect the queen, Kyle roared, shadows exploding outward. The throne room became a battlefield. Guards shifted, meeting the creatures head-on. Counselors fled. Blood sprayed across ancient stone. Kale fought like a force of nature. Shadows and claws, alpha dominance and barely controlled fury. But there were too many, and every second he used the void's power, I felt it through our bond, felt it trying to consume him again. Kale! I channeled my light, sending it to him through the bond, stabilizing, balancing. I know, he tore through another creature, but if we don't stop them, then we do the bond now. Mira appeared beside me, violet light blazing. We don't have time to prepare. We don't have time to be careful. We bond now or we die. We need all 3 moon-blessed, I protested. We have 3. Mira grabbed my hand. You, me, and... She looked at the battle, at Lyra, who was cutting through guards like they were nothing, moving toward Kale with murder in her eyes. We force her into it. That's impossible. The bond has to be willing. It has to be accepted, Mira corrected. There's a difference. If we can get her to accept the bond even for a second, even out of desperation, the magic will hold, I finished, understanding dawning. It was insane, impossibly dangerous, but it might be our only shot. Kale, I screamed through the bond. We need to trap Lyra, make her desperate enough to accept a bond. On it! His shadows erupted in a massive wave, not attacking, but containing. They wrapped around Lyra like chains, pulling her toward us. She fought, violet power blazing. You can't hold me. We don't need to hold you. I grabbed her wrist as Mira grabbed the other. We just need you to choose. My light poured into her. Mira's power joined mine, and through me, Kale's darkness flowed, controlled now, purposeful, light and shadow. 3 moon-blessed wolves and 1 void king, all our power converging on Lyra. She screamed, "No, I won't submit." "Then don't submit," I shouted over the chaos. "Fight, push back, show us your strength." And she did. Her power exploded outward, trying to break free. But that's when I felt it. The prophecy magic. The ancient bonds that had been waiting for this moment for 300 years. The moment all 4 pieces tried to touch. The moment the Trinity was complete. The magic snapped into place. Lyra's scream cut off. Her eyes went wide. No, you tricked me." "We saved you," Mira said, "whether you wanted it or not." The bond blazed to life. Not just between Kyle and me anymore. Between all 4 of us. A web of light and shadow, connecting us, binding us, pack bond, family bond, unbreakable. Through it, I felt everything. Kyle's fierce protection, Mira's desperate hope, and Lyra's pain. So much pain, loneliness, the weight of power she never asked for, never wanted, couldn't control. "You were just like me," I whispered, understanding crashing through me. Alone, afraid, doing whatever it took to survive. "Shut up," Lyra snarled, but I felt her walls crumbling through the bond. "You didn't want to rule. You wanted to be free. Free from the prophecy. Free from the expectation. Free from the burden of saving a world that never saved you." Tears streamed down her face. I said, "Shut up." "It's okay." I pulled her closer, and Mira did too. "You're not alone anymore. None of us are. I killed." Her voice broke. "I've done terrible things. I don't deserve—" "None of us deserve what we've been given," Kale said, joining us in the center of the bond. "But we're choosing each other anyway. The 4 of us connected, balanced, complete." And the void sang, not in hunger, not in rage, in recognition. The darkness that had plagued Kyle's bloodline for 300 years suddenly had what it needed. Not 1 light to suppress it, not 2 to balance it, but 3 to transform it. The shadows poured out of Coil, but this time they didn't destroy. They healed. Every mutated wolf in the throne room suddenly collapsed as the void corruption burned away, leaving them whole, human, free. "What?" Kale stared at his hands, at the shadows that were controlled now, purposeful. "I can feel it. The void. It's not fighting me anymore. It's part of you," I finished. "Not a curse, just power, yours to wield." Through the bond, I felt his wonder, his relief, his overwhelming gratitude, and I felt Lyra's surrender, not in defeat, in acceptance. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything. I can't take it back, but you're Pack now," Mira said firmly, "and Pack protects each other, no matter what. Even after, especially after." I squeezed her hand. "That's what family means." The bond settled, humming between us, strong, stable, eternal. Kyle pulled us all into an embrace, his mate, his family, his pack. "So what now?" Lyra asked quietly. "Now?" I looked around the throne room. at the freed wolves picking themselves up, at the guards lowering their weapons, at the dawn breaking through the shattered windows. Now we rebuild, together. The Eastern Territories will need a new alpha, Kale said. Someone strong, someone who understands the weight of power. He looked at Lyra. Someone who's made mistakes and chosen to do better. You're giving them to me? She sounded stunned. I'm giving you a chance. What you do with it is up to you. He smiled slightly. But you're pack now, which means we support each other. Trade, alliance, mutual protection. And if I fail, then we help you succeed, I said. That's what this bond means. We don't stand alone anymore. Mira grinned. Plus, I'm coming with you. Someone needs to make sure you don't start any more wars. Thank you. Lyra's voice cracked. I don't deserve this. Any of this. None of us do, Kale said. But we're choosing it anyway. 6 months later, I stood on the same balcony where this all began, watching the sun set over territories that were finally, truly at peace. The coronation had been beautiful, terrifying, perfect. I was officially Luna Queen now, with all the power and responsibility that entailed. Kale's arms wrapped around me from behind, thinking too loud again. Can't help it. I leaned back into him. So much has changed. Good changes, though. He was right. The territories were thriving. The new protection protocols I'd implemented meant no pack was ever ignored again. Lyra and Mira had transformed the East into something remarkable, strong but compassionate, powerful but fair. And Kale, my beautiful, broken, perfectly imperfect mate, was free. The void no longer controlled him. He controlled it. Used it to protect, to build, to heal. I have something to tell you, I said quietly. I already know. He turned me to face him, hands splaying across my stomach. I can feel her, through the bond. Tears blurred my vision. Her? A girl. Strong. Fierce. Just like her mother. His smile was soft, wondering. Moon-blessed too, if I'm reading the signs right. Another one for the Trinity. Or maybe the start of something new. A future where moon-blessed wolves aren't rare, where power isn't a curse but a gift. I pulled him down for a kiss. Soft, sweet, full of promise. I love you, I whispered against his lips. My monster, my mate, my king. And I love you. He rested his forehead against mine. My light, my Luna, my everything. The bond hummed between us, gold and shadow perfectly balanced. Behind us, I felt Lyra and Mira through the pack bond, felt their happiness, their support, their love. We weren't broken anymore. We were whole, and the future stretched before us, bright and beautiful and ours. I'd refused to bow to the Alpha King. He'd forced me to my knees, and in doing so, we'd both found exactly what we needed. Not submission, not dominance, just each other. If you felt that bond settle into place, if this story lives in your chest now, you know what that means. You're part of the pack. Subscribe to Kismet Romance Collection. We protect our own, and the next story is already calling. Hit that like if this ending hit different. And if you know someone who needs a story where broken pieces become something unbreakable, don't gatekeep. Share this. They'll understand why.